distinguished office bearers and members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, distinguished members of the Tax Bar Association, my colleagues at work, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I must say that I am overwhelmed by your presence. I thank you for the warmth and hospitality that you have shown to me this afternoon. I thank you for having assembled here in such numbers and at a rather short notice. I am overwhelmed and really thank you from the core of my heart. Friends, during the last 2-3 years, I personally, as a Chief Commissioner of Income Tax Uttarakhand, as Chief Commissioner at Delhi, as the Principal Chief Commissioner of UP West presently, and as the Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax Exemptions for the entire country, I have been having such sessions at regular intervals at different places. And I do it with the belief and the conviction that it is only when senior civil servants, bureaucrats as you call them, go amidst the people, amidst the stakeholders and talk transparently that the trust deficit gets bridged, and that necessarily results in a better administration and better revenues. This I have personally experienced during this financial year as the Principal Chief Commissioner of UP West. It was because of such interactions and the transparency and the trust that I reposed among the people that we could add 2.5 lakhs new assessees to the existing number of assessees in the entire state of Uttar Pradesh, and we could collect a hopping sum of 30,000 crores, exceeding our targets by about 300 crores when the entire nation's target fell in collection. Well, let me also tell you that our Honorable Prime Minister also feels that the senior civil servants at our levels should not only remain glued to their desks, and they should go out and reach out to people, to different cross-sections of the society, and try to know from them, try to take a feedback from them as to what was their expectations from the government, and also inform them as to what the government was doing for them. In fact, way back in 2014, the Prime Minister's office had issued a circular to this effect. I personally feel that it is a wonderful idea on the part of our Honorable Prime Minister, and it has been in pursuance of that during the last 3 years, I have actually addressed various cross-sections of the society. I have gone to schools and colleges, talked to young students. I have talked to artisans and craftsmen of Uttarakhand. I have talked to tax professionals, which I do more often than not. I have interacted with trade bodies, chambers of commerce, etc., etc. While talking to students, I have spoken to them about the qualities of good citizenship. While talking to public servants at their academies, I have talked about the urgency to deal with the menace called corruption in public life. More often than not, as a taxman, I have appealed to people to pay their taxes regularly and in time. Many a times, what I have said has also constituted threats of the dire consequences of not following the law of the land, particularly the tax laws. But then this afternoon, amidst all of you, I am a little intimidated. I am intimidated because all of you yourselves are so successful, so enlightened, so highly educated, and particularly I am intimidated because of the overwhelming presence of the tax professionals and the chartered accountants, because they are actually the masters of the games of law and accounts, which actually we are supposed to administer. But then, intimidation apart, I have that confidence that I can live up to. I mean, that intimidation actually makes my task of making a dialogue with you relevant, meaningful, and efficacious a little challenging. But then I have that confidence to meet that challenge, because when I talk to you, when I interact with you, I don't talk like a tax administrator as such or a big government functionary as such. I talk to you as equal partners in the government's commitment towards ushering in a better tax administration. Now, so far as the tax professionals are concerned, who are, I am told, present here in larger numbers, I would clarify that in their context, this use of the word outreach actually becomes a little flawed, because you are the ones for whom we really don't have to go out to reach you, because you are always around us, you are in fact with us, and for the same objectives. And that objective is to bring the right incomes to tax and in a rightful manner. Well, be that as it may, once I say that you as enlightened citizens and you as tax administrators are equal partners in the government's endeavor towards ushering in a healthy tax administration, it becomes important and imperative to understand as to who you are and what is the expectation from you, and we must also tell you as to who we are and what you should be expecting from us. Let me first talk about you, and let me start with the tax professionals. Since there is an overwhelming presence of the chartered accountants here, Need I remind them as to what the Honorable Prime Minister said about 3-4 years back when he addressed you through the television on the Chartered Accountants Day? Well, he told you that your power, the power of your pen, was more than that of the Prime Minister. Actually, I don't find any exaggeration in that, because we in the department verify only what you have certified, and I have no illusions that we possess any superior wisdom than you. In fact, we learn a lot from you when we enter into proceedings through you. I have always felt during last more than 3 decades of my career that you have been our best educators. You are practically our amicus curiae in all the proceedings that you are with us in. Well, that being so, it casts a huge responsibility on your shoulders too. Therefore, you as tax professionals and you as enlightened citizens of this country, let me tell you what are those expectations. Let me list out one by one, so far as I can think standing here at the moment. Number one, since I told you that it is you who certifies the accounts of the assessee, and it is that which we verify. Now, that necessarily means that you need to exercise due diligence when you do so, and that you have to maintain the highest amount of professional competence and professional ethics. Number two, people are interfaced with you in the context of their tax obligations. They come to you for advice, and therefore you must always give them the right advice. Please always remember that thin difference between what we call tax avoidance and what we call tax evasion. That difference is more often than not thinner than what we think and what you try to argue out. Thirdly, as tax professionals and as enlightened citizens of this country and as social leaders, you need to spread the message that not paying taxes regularly and in time doesn't help. That you can't grow in life without paying your taxes properly. That you can't grow in life without having a sound balance sheet, because no lender will ever come to you for finances unless you have a sound balance sheet. You have to spread the message that cash is stashed away beyond a limit is of no use, is of no help. That cash beyond the limit which you can blow away, what we generally call as conspicuous consumption. Number four, you need to help us in our efforts at what we call widening of tax base. Friends, I hope you recall about 3-4 years back in his budget speech, the finance minister quoted certain statistics as to how few people are filing returns of income, individuals filing returns of income showing incomes of more than 1 crore, and as to how few people are filing returns of income in their individual capacity showing incomes of even more than 10 lakhs. Well, the numbers were so low that many of us here individually know more people than those numbers in our individual lives. That's shocking, actually. I really do not understand why in a country of 130 crores of people, there should not be even 13 crores of tax filers and taxpayers. Well, I agree that there is a lot of poverty, that there is substantial population which lives below the poverty line, but each one of us, when we travel, when we move around, we see prosperity by the wayside. We see prosperity in investments in movable and immovable properties. Therefore, you need to spread this message that not paying taxes regularly and in time is not only unpatriotic, it can be counterproductive. It can be counterproductive because, let me tell you, and you can use it because you are a tax professional, as a veiled threat coming from a senior officer of the tax department, that we are sitting on a huge database, not only of high value transactions as people generally understand, but even of the smallest transactions that could possibly make somebody a possible assessee. And in the days to come, any government that is there in power will have no option but to act on those. Point number 6, please always, as tax professionals, particularly for tax professionals, please always maintain that balance between professional friendliness and professional ethics. I hope you understand. Please don't do anything which could be called corruption abated. Now, having made these 6 points, I would come to tell you as to what we are and what you should be expecting from us. But then, since, as I said, there is an overwhelming number of tax professionals here, I wanted to make 2 points. One by way of my recent experience as Principal Chief Commissioner of UP West, and another about exemptions. So the first thing that I wanted to say is about, fraudulent methods being adopted by people, large number of people, while filing their TDS returns. You see, it so happened that in one district level town of Dehradun, my officers, an assistant commissioner, young lady assistant commissioner, she found that there were certain companies, in fact there were a couple of government departments also, who as tax deductors were revising their TDS returns on the system after receiving notices from the department. What they were doing is, see, it was like this. Suppose you have made a payment of 2 crores and you were supposed to deduct 4 lakhs and you had deducted actually only 2 lakhs. And when the notice was being issued for short deduction of tax, they were revising their tax returns, which they can do on the system. Rather than deducting further 2 lakhs and paying it in the government coffers, they were reducing the figure of payment itself. By doing that, they were, fudging with the figures of the government payments. It's a criminal act. So what I did is, I spoke to the chief secretaries of both the states and lodged FIRs against 2 such deductors who were senior officers of the state government. And the result was, and I spoke personally to the chief secretaries and told them that the least that I could expect is that date being 22nd March, I still remember. I would have ideally liked to speak to all the departmental heads, secretaries and the district magistrates of the state to sensitize them on this. But then since I had no time, I wrote them a letter and spoke to them over phone personally and told them that the least I could expect is that you issue strict instructions to all such deductors that each pie of actual liability should be properly calculated and paid well before 31st March. And the result of that was we could collect 4,000 crores more compared to the last year towards. Now about exemptions. Friends, my head bows down in respect for the people who are doing such great activities. But then there is one more thing. There is a philosophical aspect to this to this functioning of the exemptions. On the one hand, this has been my argument during the last 3 months at the highest level of the finance ministry, ending with the finance minister, starting with the CBDT chairman, the revenue secretary and the finance minister. And the resultant is that we are going to change our focus. The focus of the functioning of the department is going to change this year and probably the next year. The reasons I'll explain to you. You see, on the one hand, we say that we collect some 8 lakhs or 10 lakhs of crores of rupees. This year, we have ended up collecting 11 lakhs 18 crores to be precise at the national level. On the other hand, how much money we are exempting from tax? You will be amazed to know. It's a whopping sum of more than 25 lakh crores. I am just telling you the figures obtained from 5 of my 14 commissioners all over the country, as Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, Chennai. Hyderabad not included in that. Now, just think of it. Why after this exemption is absolutely fine. The department or the government or we as citizens should have no issues about it. But just think of it. Why after all these provisions of exemptions would have come in the law? I think Mr. Sharma pointed out towards it. You see, when India became independent in 1947, our constitution makers, who were people of internationally acknowledged brilliance, people like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, like B.R. Ambedkar, like Jawaharlal Nehru and all, they must have thought that India was a nation democracy, that the resources were limited, and they had at the same time incorporated, besides fundamental rights, what is called directive principles of state policy in the constitution.